Welcome to another episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week, the one, the only spaceman, Ace Frehley. We talk about his new album, Origins Volume 1. We also look back on the Kiss days, talking about Destroyer, Creatures of the Night, Psycho Circus, and the MTV Unplugged album. I know that you do not want to hear me rattle on. You want to hear Ace Frehley. So here he is, the one, the only spaceman, Mr. Ace Frehley. Hey, Ace.
Hi, Mitch. How you doing?
Always a pleasure to talk to you. You are my one and only sort of guitar god hero, so it's always a big thrill. And I've had a chance to listen to the new album Origins, and it's fantastic. So let's
Thank you.
shall we start chatting about that? So, what was the concept? Last one was Space Invader. Why go in and make a covers album and not new Ace music?
It was the record company's idea. It was something that was in my contract. They wanted to do an album of original material, and then they wanted a covers record. So, I was open to the idea, and, it started off a little slow for me, but it gained momentum once I started, getting celebrities on the tracks and trying to pick and choose which were going to be the final 12. And, it all kind of came together the last week in L.A. when I got the remainder of the celebrities on the record, and Paul Stanley did his vocal on Fire and Water. It all just came together rather quickly and generated a lot of excitement with everybody that heard what we were doing.
Yeah, and I do see that it's Origins Volume 1. Is that suggesting that there will be a Volume 2 and a Volume 3 at some point?
I don't see why not. If somebody wants to pay for it, I'll put the records out.
So let's talk about some of these songs, 'cause some of the choices are quite interesting, especially for the Kiss fan. Rock and Roll Hell, obviously from Creatures of the Night, an album that we all know the mythology to it. Your face was on the cover, you didn't play on the album, so on and so forth. How did you decide that you wanted to go to that track and cover it?
That was Ken Gulick's idea.
Yeah?
For me, when he's one of the vice presidents of marketing there, it was his idea. He brought it up the same weekend I got Slash in the studio, and I was hanging out with Ken, and I just called up my drummer who lives 15 minutes from the studio, Matt Starr.
Yeah, he's great. Love Matt.
And we tracked it and started overdubbing on it. And, when I got the hard drive back to home with me in San Diego in my studio, I came up with that intro, with little sound effects, and put the finishing touches on it. And I'm really thrilled with the way it came out. Warren Hewart did an amazing job on mixing it.
Oh, he really did. Was it strange, though, for you to cover one of these songs that you hadn't originally played on, and that was on an album that, where all this stuff had gone on?
Not really. All the stuff that went on was so long ago.
Right.
It really didn't affect me in any way of how I approached the song. It's a good, solid rocker, and I just put my twist on it. Obviously on the original version, there's no guitar in the verses. It's just bass, but I decided to thicken it up. And, I gave it my signature with the guitar solo, and then I decided to do a 2-minute guitar solo at the end of the fade, just to give the Kiss fans, a taste of what it would have been like if I jammed on it.
Well, it turned out great. So let's also talk about Paul Stanley. So much has been made in the media that everybody hates each other, and it's all blah, and yet you still sort of hang out. I've seen pictures of you having supper with Gene and Peter, and so talk to me about getting Paul on this. Was it something difficult to achieve, or was it just a phone call and there he is?
It was really actually rather easy. I originally had been trying to get Gene on the record, and he never got back to me. I guess he was tied up with one thing or another. But I said to myself, well, but let me give Paul a call. And I called Paul, and he picked up the phone right away. And I told him what I was doing, and he was very receptive from the very beginning about, getting on the record. He said, "Oh, that'll be fun." And, it took a while to figure out what song we were going to track. But we came down to two songs. We were either going to do My Generation by The Who or Fire and Water. And, we both agreed Fire and Water would be a better song. And we just tracked it. It all came together. I didn't actually see Paul because I was busy mixing and overdubbing, and he was very busy at the time. So we just forwarded him, the basic tracks, and him and his engineer threw on the lead vocal. And while he was doing that, I was doing something else, and then we got it back, and I took it home with me and threw down the guitar solos. And it just kind of came together. It's amazing how quickly and painlessly you can work these days, with emails.
Yeah, really.
You just fly stuff into Pro Tools, and it pops up on the screen, and you're good to go as long as you know what you're doing.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about the history of KISS in terms of were you reticent at all, though, to have Paul? Because it's going to get fans talking. Is Ace going to come back to KISS? Is this, is it suggestive that maybe you and Paul and some of the guys might work together at some other point down the road?
We haven't discussed that at this point.
Okay.
But, I'm not ruling it out. I've always said that, I always leave the door open.
Yeah.
I know the fans have been, there have been rumors and stuff, but there hasn't been any talk of us getting back together. Right now it's just the excitement of this record, and I'm very excited about Fire and Water. It's a good chance that we're going to release that as a single, maybe. So, Paul's really happy with the way it turned out. I'm very happy. The record company's very happy. So, we're just moving forward in a positive way, and, whatever happens in the future happens, or if it doesn't, it doesn't,
Right. And I'll say this fan is very happy from it because it turned out great. Let's look at some of the other players that you have on there. John Five, phenomenal musician. Talk to me about working on Parasite with John.
It was great working with John. I've been friends with John for a while. I mean, I remember I was in L.A. a few years back. I called up John. We went to go see the new Bond movie. We have that kind of relationship. So it was really a pleasure working with John in the studio. He's very fast and amazingly talented. So, we tackled Parasite. And I originally had a different solo on there, and John said, "Ace, you should really do your signature solo."
Yep.
So while John was sitting there, I just grabbed my Les Paul after John had been playing a little, and I doubled the original solo. And then John tackled the second half of the extended solo that's on our version of Parasite. And he did an amazing solo. I think he did it in one or two takes. And I had also told John we might do Spanish Castle Magic, but, all I had was a drum track. We had tracked it in the studio, and I didn't completely know how to play the song, even though I'd love the song. It was just one of those elusive Hendrix songs that, I had never sat and played it. But I thought it would be a great song to do. Actually, Scott Coogan, my drummer on, 3/4 of the album, suggested it. So we tracked it with just a track that we had downloaded off YouTube and put a click to it. And Scotty played the drums. I had the track, so I had John Five play the rhythm track because he had learned it. And once John did an amazing rhythm track, I threw a scratch bass on it, and we started overdubbing the lead work. And then John took off, and I threw down a quick vocal, which turned out to be a keeper. And then I brought the hard drive down to San Diego in my studio and got Chris Weiss to play bass on it. Sent it back to Warren, and he mixed it. The whole thing happened in 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, it came together quite rapidly. If you don't mind, March of 2016 marks a great anniversary in your history and in KISS's history. Destroyer is 40 years old. Why do you think that album has stood the test of time?
a great record. It's a great record, and Bob Ezrin's a great producer. You know,
Right.
some of the songs on that record are just classic, and still hold up today. You know, and will stand the test of time, like you said. You know, even though I might have had some problems, you know, during the course of that record with Bob, you know, the end result is really all that matters.
Yeah, I want to ask you about those issues, because we know the stories. You know, Bob said this and that, but was Bob right in doing that? Should he have just let Ace be Ace, or was he right to push you and say, "Hey, come on, we can do this another way," or should he have just let you do what you do?
Well, there were chemicals involved.
Right.
You know, we were all doing cocaine.
Right.
I mean, everybody knows the story. They've read it in my book.
Absolutely.
And people have talked about it. So, I mean, you know, Bob wanted to finish the record, you know, and a lot of times, you know, I may have come into the studio not completely prepared because I'd been partying the night before, you know, and Bob wanted things done bang, bang, bang. So, you know, his patience wore out. You know, I got frustrated, you know. And, but like I said, you know, by the end of the record, you know, there were a meeting of the minds, and you know, I thought the album turned out great. You know, you think about the movie The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
Yeah, you look at that movie and it's like a classic film, and it's perfect just as it is. You know, but there were songs on. You know, I think they had 3 different directors during the course of the filming of that movie. 2 or 3 of the songs that they filmed never made it into the final cut of the movie. You know, there were all sorts of problems during the, you know, they had there was Buddy Epson, the guy from the Beverly Hillbillies.
Right.
He was the original Tin Man. You know, then they scrapped him and got, you know, the guy that's ended up in the original film, and his name escapes me. But my point is, they struggled so much with that production. But, you know, when you see the end result, you go, no, nobody ever thinks about what
right.
went wrong during the process. You just look at the final end result and you go, wow, it was magical.
Right. So even though Bob gave you a hard time, I guess the proof is in the pudding. He was right. He needed to sort of lay down the law and push it in the direction that he did then.
Yeah, I mean, there's no hard feelings between me and Bob, you know.
Of course.
Bob was just doing his job, you know. Sometimes I could be a little difficult, but, you know, like I said, and you said, the end result, you know, turned out great, and it's a very special record, and you know, most of my thoughts of that record, you know, were very positive.
Right. Now, another record that was significant in the career, in yours and in Kiss's, was the Unplugged album, which came out in March of '96, celebrating 20 years this year. When you went in August of '95 to record it, were you already in the process of this reunion tour was going to happen, or was sort of this the testing ground? If this goes well, then we'll call you later, kind of thing. What was that album and that experience like for you in terms of career and you know, the future?
Well, the Unplugged record was recorded live, right?
Right, in '95, and then it was released in '96. And you know, it changed things for a few years. There was the reunion and then the farewell, and you know, it changed history for a bit, that one. It's a great album, by the way. How was that experience for you?
It was a little nerve-wracking, you know. We weren't sure how the fans were going to receive it. I know there was a lot of excitement around the whole thing, but, you know, when we actually taped the show, I mean, fans just went crazy when me and Peter walked out.
Absolutely.
It was just one of those moments in time where everything solidified, and Paul and Gene realized that they couldn't even put out the record that they had just recorded with Bruce and Eric. They had to scrap it and move forward with me and Peter because the fans wouldn't have it any other way.
No, and you know, listen, I saw 11 reunion shows, and I was not disappointed any night. It was just, how was that reunion tour for you? Because from my perspective, it was magical. Was it as positive for you to be out there and playing those songs again?
It was a lot of fun in the beginning,
Right.
but as the years progressed, it got a little weird. And Paul and Gene know how to push my buttons and Peter's buttons, and some of the things that we had talked about in the initial outset of the reunion tour, things started changing. The rules started changing. Decisions were being made without my consulting me, and I started feeling like I was a hired gun instead of part of a creative process, which is what I wanted. So I kind of, when that started going down, I realized I had to move on with my own career and put Kiss on the back burner.
Yeah, and
which is what happened.
And if I'll before I get over to your tour, because you've got dates coming in April, if I may, I'll ask you one more Kiss related question, then we'll get off the topic. But the Psycho Circus album, again, like I said, I saw 11 reunion shows. The band was firing on all cylinders, regardless of what was going on backstage. You sounded great every night. Shouldn't that energy have been captured in a studio? I mean, wouldn't Psycho Circus have been the best Kiss album had it been recorded by the four guys?
It was my feeling. I felt it would have been a better album if me and Peter had played more on it.
Yeah. Were you disappointed with the decision? Was it simply financial, like we're just going to go in L.A. and hire a couple of guys to come in and do this, and we won't pay Ace and we won't pay Peter? And I mean, was it just financial, or was it, I mean, how do you make such a bad decision? No offense to the guys, but how do you not?
It's really a question you need to ask Paul and Gene, because they were the ones that made the decision,
Right.
I was just kind of, I was living in L.A. at the time. I had gotten an apartment, and they were calling the shots, which which kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because initially I was an equal partner, and here I am, kind of like a hired gun, and not getting the respect I felt I deserved, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. I think people make bad decisions, and there's repercussions that, are going to take place.
Yeah, and I agree with that. So you've got this tour coming up in April. We'll talk about what fans can expect, but are they the only tours, or do you see yourself adding dates in May, June, July, and going through the year? What are your plans in terms of touring for this year?
Well, there's definitely going to be some summer dates. I'm in the process of discussing that and picking and choosing some anchor dates that my agent's going to fill up. Maybe some dates in Canada. I had an offer to go to South America. I had an offer to go to Europe again. So it's just picking and choosing, what makes sense logistically and financially.
And so fans that are coming to the show in April, what can fans expect? Is it going to be mostly Fraley Comet stuff? Is it mostly Kiss stuff? It's a sort of overview of everything. What are fans going to be, looking forward to?
Pretty much an overview of everything, but, with one or two songs off every album. We just added Sister to the set because people were complaining we didn't do anything off Anomaly. But it's I only do 75 minutes, so it's like you got so many albums to choose from. You can never make all the people happy all of the time. So you add something, something's got to be knocked out. So that's the problem we've been having. So we added Emerald, and we're probably going to add another one off the new album for the run in April. I'm not sure which one.
Right.
And a cross section of Kiss classics and Ace classics. That'll pretty much be it.
The before the first Fraley Comet album came out, or during the '80s, you recorded an incredible amount of demos that people can go see on YouTube. All kind, some called audio, video, and dancing. Is there a plan to take some of those older tracks that were demoed and release them at some point and get them out there to the fans?
Probably. There's a lot of tracks I have in storage, from my studio in Connecticut that have never seen the light of day, besides the ones that people have heard, in demo form. So, that's probably going to be a special record down the road once I get some free time. And I got to transfer all the tapes that I have to digital, throw them on hard drives and then listen to them in Pro Tools and pick and choose. And, I know there's some stuff there I don't even remember recording. So it's going to be a fun process, but, this year will probably be a little tough to get to that. But in the next year or two, hopefully I can get to that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'd love to see those things cleaned up. When I talk to some other rock stars, whether it's Scott Ian of Anthrax and all that, or people always say Ace Frehley is the guy that made them pick up the guitar. Who was the guy that made you say, okay, I want to do this, I want to pick up this guitar?
It wasn't one guy. It was like 4 or 5 guys.
Okay.
Originally it was the Beatles and the Stones, and then, when I was about 15, I went to see a Murray the K show in Manhattan, and it was Mitch riding the Detroit Wheels with a headliner, but lo and behold, the Who and the Cream were opening.
Yeah.
That changed my life, and then, Jimi Hendrix Experience and Led Zeppelin threw me another curveball.
Yeah.
And so, pretty much, by the time I was 16, I was walking around with Jimi Hendrix's record under my arm in high school and, playing in bands and learning all the solos and figuring out all that stuff. And, all major influences on me, Hendrix, Clapton, Jimmy Page, Pete Townsend.
Yeah.
Great guys, great musicians, There'll never be another group like Led Zeppelin or Cream or any of those bands.
Or a Kiss, quite frankly. I mean, listen, you were part of something very unique and special. How do you rank yourself or see yourself in sort of the guitar world? Because, like I said, for many of these people, and you've seen the interviews, and you're the guitar hero for thousands of people. But how do you see yourself in terms of a guitar player?
I try to live in the now. I don't really focus too much on what I've done.
Okay.
I'm always looking towards the future. And, I get that, I get that all the time. I meet people and, they say, I picked up the guitar because of you. I mean, honestly, I would have practiced more if I knew I was going to influence guitar players, because sometimes I play a little sloppy, but, that's kind of part of my my style.
Your charm.
It's unconventional. I'm not a schooled musician. I don't know how to read music. And, but that's probably something that, people find attractive because I don't sound like anybody else.
Well, I think that's it. It's a unique style that you can't learn at the Guitar Institute. I mean, it just really is uniquely Ace Frehley. And just before we go here, as we all get older and as we all go, do you see yourself doing this sort of like B.B. King and go all the way until the end? Or as at some point do you sit back and say, you know what, I'm just going to head over to the beach in La Jolla, put up my feet, and that's it. I'm done. I'm walking away from this.
I don't see any end in sight at this juncture. I'm having so much fun. Think about what I've achieved in the last 12 months. Touring Australia, touring Europe, touring the States, putting out another record. It's like I'm doing more now than I did, probably ever. And I'm going to be 65 next month, but I don't feel like it, I've never been healthier. So I don't see an end in sight, If my health starts to fail at some point or, people don't come to the shows, that'll probably be the sign for me. It's time to pack it up. But, as long as people want to see me play, I'm feeling good about it and enjoying myself, I'll be doing it.
Yeah, and I certainly want to see you play, and hopefully you'll come out to Canada at some point. I know it's not always easy to tour up here because of our dollar and this and that, but I'm very much looking forward to it. Ace, always a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for your time today.
My pleasure. You have a great day.
Thank you, Ace. Bye-bye.
Okay.
And there you have it, folks, my interview with the one, the only spaceman, Ace Frehley. The new album is Origins Volume 1. I have heard it, and I can tell you it is great. You should definitely check that out. I send this episode out to Jeff George, a guitarist for the band We Are Harlot. He's a big Ace fan. Again, one of those guys who picked up the guitar because of Ace Frehley. Last year, their debut album, We Are Harlot, came out, and oh my God, it is absolutely fantastic. Check that out if you haven't. While you're checking stuff out, head over to Twitter. Check me out at Mitch Lafon, and on Facebook, one-on-one Mitch Lafon. As always, folks, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Always just fantastic talking to anybody who has been in KISS. There you go. Bye for now.